get some information from one of our candidates. I'm going to introduce David Nolan, one of the founders of the Libertarian Party, and he's running for Arizona State Senate.
Just this up a little higher here. As the previous speaker was a little bit shorter.
That means you have to speak down.
Loose, I'll just hold it in my hand. It's wireless, right?
I think it'll pour.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Yes, I am Dave Nolan. I am the Libertarian Party candidate for United States Senate. I'm running against John McCain and some Democrat whose name temporarily escapes me. Not really, but you go out on the street and ask people. So I'm pleased to be here tonight. My wife Elizabeth and I were last up in Flagstaff 3 years ago, and it's a nice time of year to come up here. We live in Tucson where it's warmer, and we just spent last night in Phoenix where it's even warmer than that. We drove to a session at Channel 3 Studios in downtown Phoenix, and on the way we passed a sign that said current temperature 108. You know, in July, you know, I'd go, okay, it's Phoenix, it's July, it's 108. But you know, 2 days before the fall equinox, there's something not quite right with that. I'm going to begin tonight by giving you good people, you're going to be the first people basically in the world, except for a couple of studio technicians, who will hear the 3-minute statement that I made at Channel 3 down in Phoenix yesterday. They are recording. They've offered every candidate an opportunity to make a recorded statement that will be aired at least once and perhaps several times between now and Election Day. And of course, being forced by circumstance to condense what you're all about in terms of your campaign down into a short period of time causes you to have to really zero in on the things that you think are important and to communicate your message clearly and compellingly to the voters. And in a moment I'm going to read you my statement, and after that I'm going to elaborate a little bit more beyond that, because here I'm not limited to 3 minutes, and then we'll open it up to questions. So here is what I said in my presentation, which will air on Channel 3, KTVK in Phoenix. Will probably be picked up in other cities via cable feed around the state. So, a few times each century, things realign. The political axis tilts. This is one of those moments. I'm David Nolan, Arizona's Libertarian candidate for the United States Senate, and I need your vote. I take off my glasses so I can read about it. Now I can't see you, but I can see the screen. They had it on teleprompter. The letter's about this high, so I could do it. Why should you vote for me instead of one of the old party candidates? The answer is simple. The Libertarian Party is the only political party in America that consistently supports your individual rights across the board. Our slogan is minimum government, maximum freedom. Libertarians believe that you have a right to keep what you earn, every penny. As your senator, I will work to end the federal personal income tax. And that's an economic stimulus plan that everyone can understand. Imagine how much better off you would be if you didn't have to give up a portion of your earnings to wasteful bureaucrats in Washington. But how would we pay for government services, you may be asking? The truth is, if the federal government was limited to doing only the things specified in the U.S. Constitution, we would not need to tax personal incomes. As your senator, I would apply one simple test to every new piece of proposed legislation. If it's not specifically authorized in the Constitution, I vote against it. Unlike John McCain, who supported the big bank bailouts, I would not vote to take money from hardworking Americans and give it to people on Wall Street who made bad investments. Another key difference between me and Senator McCain is that I will vote to end America's involvement in all overseas wars and bring our troops home to safety. The United States must have a strong national defense system, but we cannot police the world. By interfering in the affairs of other nations, we stir up resentment around the globe and provoke our enemies into terrorist acts. A peaceful, non-interventionist foreign policy will save hundreds of billions of dollars and countless lives. The biggest single problem facing America today is a crushing burden of debt that will bankrupt our nation and destroy our economy. This problem was created by Republican and Democratic politicians working together, and if we continue to elect and re-elect them, nothing will change. 2/3 of all Americans now say they want less government and lower taxes, and only the Libertarian Party will deliver on that demand. If every Arizona voter who wants less government will vote for me on November 2nd, I will be elected as Arizona's first Libertarian senator. To learn more about my campaign and where I stand on the issues that matter to you, please visit my website, www.nolan2010.org. That's nolan2010.org. Thank you. I'm David Nolan, Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate, and I want your vote. Now, obviously, in a very limited time, you can't begin to address all the important issues that face this country and this world. For example, I was not able to get into a discussion and explanation of the Federal Reserve System and how this cartel has been used to rob the American people by creating funny money and channeling wealth away from the people who produce it into the hands of the banker elite that manipulate the money supply. That's a very important issue, but you can't address it as part of a 3-minute presentation. It's a very important issue. 10 years ago, if you talk to somebody about this Federal Reserve and try to explain that the money system was at the root of a lot of our problems, people look at you real strange and go, what's he talking about? Money, isn't that those green pieces of paper in my wallet? Well, that's what they've been telling you is money, but in fact, that is not money. That is simply a promissory note, an IOU that people pass around in as long as they're willing to accept them and trade for goods and services. It serves as money, but it is not, in fact, money, because money, among its other functions, is a store of value, and a Federal Reserve note has no value. But you can't talk about that in a short speech. You can't talk about many, many issues, which I'm sure members of this audience would like me to address. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to be on the same side of every issue with every person in this room, just for starters, because you've got 80 or 90 people in this room and you don't all agree with each other on every issue all the time to begin with. This is a group of people who think for themselves. You're individuals. You've reached the conclusions that you have about the issues of the day through consulting independent information sources. Is there anybody here who just simply turns on the network news and believes everything they tell you? Anybody in this room? I don't think so. The people who are motivated enough to become involved in what is currently known as the Tea Party movement are independent thinkers. They're people who understand, they become aware that something is wrong, that something needs to change. You've all taken the time, spent the energy to learn, to try to understand what's wrong and what we can do to fix it. And you know, there is no simple, single magic bullet solution. If by some long combination of circumstances I win in November and I go off to Washington as Arizona's U.S. Senator, I will not single-handedly be able to change the world. If 10 libertarians or libertarian-minded people are elected to the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives, they alone will not be able to turn the tide, but they'll be able to make a real significant dent. Look how much Ron Paul has done in the years that he's been in Congress. And I know Ron Paul personally. I don't know him well, but I know him well enough that when we run into each other at conferences, we shake hands and say hi. And if you called up his office, if you ran into him somewhere and said, "Do you know this guy Nolan? Who is he? Is he okay?" He knows who I am, and he'd say, "Yes, he's okay." And if you doubt me, by all means, please contact Congressman Paul. I'm proud to call him a friend and someone who's been an inspiring leader in this fight for liberty. I was interested to see so many of my friends and associates that I've worked with over the years mentioned in the presentation we just watched. Tom Woods, for example. chatted with Tom at the Freedom Fest in Las Vegas. Did any of you attend that 2 months ago? No? That's a great event they have every year where a bunch of very good